Filling feeders up, and we picked a few up after the burns, but I mean, we hadn't even started doing any walking and looking yet, so all these were laying close to a feeder, or you could see it laying on the edge of one of the fields. And so, I mean, I think me and James found this one. We was spraying Cloverfield one day and it was laying in a bean field, but this was laying 15 yards from a feeder. A couple weeks ago, my father-in-law, or my stepdad, and one of my boys was up here with me, and we was gonna do a feed run, and we had seen that he had dropped early. And cause I had him on camera an hour or so before, so they kind of found out while I was filling the feeder up, and he was about 15 yards from the feeder. But
you got good, strong pedicle roots, which we look at that a lot.
I do, but I've got a bunch that I'm not real happy with. Nothing on y'all's part, but there's got several that we've got. But I've been told that it's a disease in this part of Harris County. DNR knows about it and don't really know how to get rid of it, but this is not uncommon for up here. It's been going on for a while, but for what we found, the amount that we picked up so far, and I think I've got 3 or 4 that have got a bad break on the pedicle. It's not that bad.
That really unusual pedicle formation in that, this is obviously down underneath skin, from the whiteness of it.
Right.
And that's a big chunk out of a deer skull when you think about that. That's amazing. But you've got, big primary vessel, deposit vessel stuff.
You can look at this one. This was a deadhead that we found, but I mean, you can see where that broke off, the same as the rest of these we're looking at.
And I wonder if that had anything to do with the hole in the skull.
I don't know.
It opens up areas to infection, but yeah, one of the neat things we always look at in most of the farms that I've managed in the past, you do have kind of a lot of abnormal, by abnormal I mean not round, pedicle development. I mean, there's a lot of them here. I don't think that in and of itself is really an indicator of anything. What I want to see, I don't want to see, like, you look at some of the concave. Mm-hmm. Younger deer will typically be less convex, but when they start to get out, you want to see some projection coming off of there. It's just one of those things where you can kind of look at it. And, feeders are a good place because your most stressed deer are going to get on those feeders first.
Right.
And, a lot of times your early droppers are going to be on those feeders. Gives you an idea. Use camera and kind of say, hey, which deer are dropping, what age class is dropping, how do the drops look, how do the deer look when they drop. And
we've got them from all ages dropping right now, and I've still got a bunch that still got both sides on.
Yeah, and we're right at that point where really they should be dropping because the equal daylight and dark is a trigger for the spring growth. And in bucks, that's pedicle formation, and in does, that's let's start growing that fawn that's inside us. So
you're still seeing some with both sides.
Yep. I got one.
Wild to me.
I got one back there in the hardwoods on bottom where that turkey feeder's at.
Yeah.
You can actually watch him. He gets mad if there's not any feed on the ground, and I've got pictures of him reaching up and literally kicking the feeder, trying to get that Milo where he can eat off that plate in there. It's crazy. But he's got both sides still.
Dang.
And we've got, I think, back home in New York, all of our cameras, we can't use feeders, so we don't get that, but we've got one spike buck that I got a picture of on the 6th that's still holding. And a lot of times there's a lot of debate about it, but in captive deer, what we found is that the later overall your shed is, it means that they're not seeing those wild fluctuations in hormonal, blood changes. And that's a good thing because that goes back to that injury, illness, environmental stress. Your first shedders are the ones that usually your most aggressive rut deer. And a lot of times when you're developing a property, your young deer won't shed till really, really late, and your old deer won't shed till really, really late. But those middle kind of 2.5 to 4.5 deer get so aggressive because there's so much competition, they wear themselves out and they're the first ones to shed. So it's, you kind of, it's not absolute, but it gives you an idea, hey, things are different this year. And I laugh every year because every December we hear about, bucks are all shedding early. And every March we hear about, all my bucks are holding. And it really is not an absolute thing. But cool factor anyway. There's some neat sheds.
But that's not even looking yet.
Yeah, that's just, I mean, literally filling feeders.
That's just walking around and finding some.
Just what popped the tires, my friend said.
Yeah.
Yeah,
This one, that is concerning.
Yeah, that's pretty severe.
That took some skull.
And I get it that a lot of people, and the reality of property management is everybody wants to kill the biggest buck on the property, right? But not everybody's going to. Only one person is going to if they kill it. If there's other opportunities, I'm not that guy just because I didn't grow up with the management mentality. I don't mind shooting management deer. I've killed a bunch on our property in Kentucky. I've never killed a giant. I killed a good one this year. But my friends have killed bigger deer on our Kentucky lease because I'm pretty Machiavellian. If a deer that I know I don't want eating my food, everybody thinks it's a genetics thing, and it's not, because you really don't have any control over that, who he breeds, and you don't know which does he bred. But big aggressive 8-pointers were a big problem in our Kentucky lease because they were, I killed one, he was 7.5 years old, and let me tell you, when he came out on one side of the farm, there wasn't a buck within a quarter of a mile from it. Yeah. So when I got the chance to kill him, yeah.
We have a lot of them.
yep.
Right, and they're taking your resources. And if your goal is to build better antler development, a lot of those deer are they're only gonna be big 8 points. Nothing wrong with me with big 8 points, but when you get too many of them, they push the deer that you wanna grow away. They take the resources that you're investing in, and that's when the buck that you wanted to go another year goes to the neighbors and gets shot. So we try to shoot holes in big property. We have 1,000 acres there. So, and we kind of become the late season, everything comes down into it. It gives us the opportunity to bring people in and when one shows up.
Yeah, that is good.
Yeah.
Where the bully, or the Funky 8, his sheds, have not found those, have they?
Have not, well, that deer went MIA
MIA for a while.
after Brian seen him on the north up here. That deer went MIA and we never saw him again. And I've still yet to pick him up on camera, and his sheds don't buy any of the feeders or anything, so
I know, that
who
that
knows?
deer,
We might find him when we start looking.
he was just so consistent for the longest time. And it's amazing how often that happens too, is like you'll see a deer be consistent and then they go MIA, and sometimes you never see those deer
Well,
again.
you killed his buddy. He was heartbroken.
He didn't care for a long time.
You broke his heart and you took his best friend out.
They were running buddies.